So creature is a notoriously difficult skill. However, I truly believe that if you have the right technique and engagement, you will be able to get this even with limited flexibility. So I'll tell you about the common mistakes and what I do to make sure that I get into that shape. And we'll start with just setting up our wraps, passing through your split poles after wrapping egg beaters. Make sure that each pole is past your iliac crest or top of your pelvis before folding forward so it doesn't shift later. Tug each fabric securely under the foot, wrapping to the outside, and then hands are going to slide from the inside with thumbs pointing out and palms up. Okay, so what goes wrong most of the time is that the legs are lifting up kind of behind the body, and the hands are sliding down the tails as you do that. So I am now losing tension between my hands and my feet, and I really need that tension to pull my body into the shape. So that's not going to work, and that is the wrong way to approach your creature, to lift your legs up to the sky. You can get into scorpion that way. You don't need tension on the tails to get into scorpion. However, you do need to be mindful about legs being narrow, because you know that can end up with them going between your fabrics, which is not the goal when we're going for creature or scorpion. So I want to show you that again, and I want to exaggerate it so you really clearly see how important it is to not take this approach. In this example, my legs are lifting behind me and they're kind of wide, but my hands are just, way down under me, tails sliding right through. I could keep flipping over and go into a scorpion, but I'm definitely not going to find my creature shape with so much slack in my tails, with my hands under my body. So the idea that I would like you to leave behind is that the legs are lifting up behind you and that the arms are under the body. Yes, the legs are going to lift, but that's not the primary action we're going to start with. So this is a shape you do not want to see when you are working on your creature. It's not going to get you into the shape you're looking for. So here's what you're going to do instead. Set up your hands very close to your feet and open your feet wide to the side. No other action, just straight out to the sides, staying folded in your trunk and your hips. Hands are following that straddle shape. And when you've gotten as wide as you can, then you're going to start to lift your legs and your chest at the same time. The legs are going to pull the arms up. This looks like this crazy shape. That is hard to believe, but it is exactly what you want this to look like at this point. So you're going to reach a point where you cannot lift your legs around anymore without the shoulders being stuck. So that is when you need to allow the hands to slide down the tails as little as possible to get the legs to their next section. So I'm making sure my legs are still as wide as they can possibly be. My hands are as close to the feet as possible, and keeping so much tension on those tails between feet and hands so that my wraps are not able to slip. That is super key, because the wraps would love to slip down the leg as you move through that position. The other thing to note is internal rotation at your hips is going to really help secure those highest wraps on either leg. So let's look at that again from a different angle. So I'm opening my feet wide and staying very folded. My hands are following that shape and staying close to the feet. And I'm pulling really hard on my feet at all times. See how much tension there is in the tail. It's very taut. Then I lift legs, arms, and chest all at once. I see how high I can get, and when I cannot go any higher because my shoulder flexibility is limited, then I will start to allow my hands to slide a little bit down the tails, just as little as necessary. There is going to be a point that you're stuck, and you have to go just beyond that stuck point to continue. So the pathway of the arms, they're behind you, and then they're out to the side, and finally they find a position at head height. You do not want your hands under your head where you can see them. Maybe you can see them if you have good cervical spine flexibility and you're looking up, but we want those arms reaching out in front. And I have found that even students with limited shoulder flexibility are able to get to this point as long as they are pulling nice and tight on the tails and sliding out the hands just the amount they need to get the arms around. Now, if you have severely limited shoulders, that is going to be more of an issue. So that would be kind of ground zero to make sure that's in place before pursuing this skill. A fun way to test the engagement and your technique in this skill is to see if you can flow back and forth between the folded position and the creature position. The key is to have your wraps be really, really tight, internally rotate your hips, and really just make sure you're keeping minimal distance between feet and hands. Big squeeze, you're engaging your legs, and you are staying wide. It's the wide legs that helps keep the top wrap where the pole hits the hip and the upper thigh. It keeps it in place. As soon as the legs narrow, that pole slides down toward the knees. So as long as you're trying to do a creature shape, you do not want to have that happening. So here's a super helpful trick you can use if you are having trouble keeping your wraps on for creature. Climb above your scorpion, and this gives you an additional wrap above your knees, and this gives you a way more secure set of wraps to practice your body position. It just all holds together really easily. The thing to be wary of and why I looked down, I felt like my pants were going to rip. If you are doing creature correctly, you are at a very high risk of ripping your pants, so you have to make sure that you have very flexible fabric to accommodate how wide you are opening the legs and how much you are pulling them apart during this move. So if you rip your pants, I'm sorry, but that's also a really good sign that you have the right technique. So I hope this helps, and let me know if you have any questions.